We all know Donald Trump has no filter and no moral compass. But a new book argues the problem has spread throughout the party Trump took over. Progressive commentator Brian Tyler Cohen writes of the GOP, quote, "Consider the world of possibility that opens up to these Republican officials once they recognize that hypocrisy no longer matters. They no longer need to waste time with the pretense of honesty and integrity. Now they can dedicate themselves to a rabid, relentless, shameless pursuit of power." Joining me now is MSNBC contributor Brian Tyler Cohen. He's the author of Shameless: Republicans, Deliberate Dysfunction, and the Battle to Preserve Democracy. Brian, thank you very much for coming to the Saturday show. I want to read you back to you. You write, "Republicans may claim to hate the Democrats, but frankly, there is no one they have more contempt for than their own supporters." Talk more about that.
We hear over and over and over again the lies that Donald Trump will tell to his own supporters, the gaslighting that he sells to his own supporters. For example, we've heard it with a ton of economic examples where he's still claiming that if we elect Democrats into the White House, that the stock market will crash and that we'll have a 1929 style crash. Well, that's exactly what he said after he was running against Joe Biden in 2020. And what are we looking at right now? We're looking at the strongest economy in the entire world. We're looking at a record high stock market. And so the fact that he would see that and come back and say the exact same thing again 4 years later, while we are living in the strongest economy, while we're living with the highest stock market, goes to show that, in fact, he has very little respect for his own audience, that he feels okay to just lie to their faces like that. And so for all of the contempt that he claims to have for Democrats, in fact, he's showing the most disdain for his own supporters that he would treat them that way.
Another thing that you write is, and this gets to the other thing, this gets to governing. You write, "The responsibility to govern has been replaced by the need to attack, to perform, to obstruct, to provoke." That's layering on or piling on to the contempt of their own supporters, but also of the American people.
Yeah, there is no incentive structure on the right anymore to actually govern. I mean, there were Republican lawmakers who came into office who weren't even hiring legislative staff because they thought it was just so important to focus on comms, on communications. And the fact is that's why we have more and more people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and Donald Trump himself. There is no incentive to do what Mitt Romney did and Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, because they're just going to suffer attacks from the hands of Donald Trump and his base. And so that's why we're in a situation where we'll continue to descend down this path where they're not looking to help the American people. They're not looking to use their political capital to lower costs or add jobs or make healthcare more affordable. It is solely just doing whatever they have to do, saying whatever they have to say to consolidate power for themselves.
So then what can be done to counteract that?
I think the onus is on us to, one, recognize our agency in all of this. You just had Mark Elias on, who is a hero for democracy. He is fighting these battles in the court, but he's also very good at pointing out the fact that Republicans are doing everything in their power to prevent Americans from actually being able to exercise their vote. They wouldn't be trying so hard to suppress our right to vote if it wasn't actually that potent of a tool. And so we have to recognize our agency. Look, a story I like to tell is that in Wisconsin in 2020, the difference between a Biden win and a Trump win in what is often referred to as the tipping point state was 2 votes per precinct. That's it. That's all that separated a Biden win from a Trump win. And so if everybody watching found 1 or 2 people who wouldn't have otherwise voted, maybe because they just turned 18 or 19 or 20, maybe because, for example, they're just feeling disaffected or they're susceptible to misinformation or disinformation, make just 1 or 2 people your responsibility. We have a lot of agency here, and just finding a couple of people in your circle who wouldn't have otherwise voted could very well be the difference between protecting democracy and accelerating our slide toward autocracy.
Now, Brian, I don't know if your mom lives in Wisconsin, but you say one of your proudest accomplishments was persuading her to vote in 2020, something she hadn't done since in 60 years?
Yeah, she had never voted. And for anybody who is familiar with the stubbornness of a Jewish mother, you'll know that it doesn't matter what what I do as my own job is not gonna have any difference there. And so I had long since given up on trying to persuade her to cast any ballots. But I think even though I'm lucky enough to be able to reach so many people online, being able to hear from one person like her, or for example, individual people who email me and say something like, I wouldn't have otherwise voted, but now I'm more engaged in this election as the result of listening to what you or what other commentators have to say, people who are just focused on again, letting us know what our agency is in this election. That has the biggest impact. And that's not just something that could be isolated to me. That's something that we can all enjoy the benefits of.
Right. Exercise. Democracy is a participation sport.
Bingo.
Brian Tyler Cohen, thank you very much for coming to the Saturday Show.
Thank you for having me on.